All right, we are recording.
Well, welcome everyone to the Charis Institute's monthly CE presentation. And I'm Dr. Jim Sells, one of the co-directors. Dr. Jen Ripley is my colleague, and it's good to see all of you emerge and join us. So we will spend this hour hearing of formation of clinical practices and presented by Dr. Laura Bokar, who I'll introduce in just a moment. But first, I'd like to ask Rima Smith to speak about the CEs and the details for your participation in this. So Rima, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, so basically if you're a licensed clinician, not a student, but a licensed clinician, and you need CE credit, if you could just type your name in the chat right now and then at the end too before you leave, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Simple enough. I'm going to do that right now as I am speaking. So that's done on my end, and we'll remind you at the end of the presentation to do that, lest that's for my sake, because I'm the one that would likely to have forgotten it. Now, Dr. Laura Bokar is a marriage and family therapist and has a doctoral degree in counselor education from Northern Illinois University. And she and I have been friends, colleagues, collaborators for close to 30 years. Mm-hmm. And she was a doctoral student at NIU when I was a professor there. And before that, she practiced at a clinical agency in Wheaton, Illinois, where we both were doing marriage and family therapy and psychology and counseling. At that time, Laura told me, I think I want to run my own practice. And when she was telling me she was going to resign from her position in Alliance and launch out on her own. And so I've been able to watch her over the course of decades grow this practice and her grow as a professional. And it's been a pleasure to see from a distance, and we're honored to have her here. She's the author of a book, We Need to Talk, 24 Simple Insights for Relationships. And she is a resident of Naperville, Illinois, married to husband Chuck. and maybe this one tidbit, she is a lover of dogs. So with that, let me introduce and then welcome Dr. Bokar. I'm glad you're here, Laura.
Thank you, Dr. Sells. Jim, it's such a pleasure to be here. And I just need to let everyone know that the doctor would not be in front of my name without you, Dr. Sells, to give me the encouragement and to really be my cheerleader during that time. So thank you for that. And thank you for this opportunity too. So I'm excited to be here this morning. And the one thing that I was thinking about is there was a time when I felt so insecure when I was introduced as Dr. Laura Bokar, the CEO of Fox Valley Institute for Growth and Wellness. And inside I was thinking, what does that even mean? And it feels like a big responsibility for someone who had not much experience in building a practice or what to do. So it felt like almost as if I was an imposter at times, but I went out and did what I had to do and smile. And of course, that's normal when you take on a new position, right? We have a tendency to question our abilities and feel insecure. And as I was thinking about you this morning, I was wondering if any of you were feeling that way and questioning about starting a practice, or if you have a practice, building a practice. And if there was some insecurity or questioning, like, can I really do this? Maybe I can, but how do I do it? And what does it mean to be a practice owner? So my hope today is that I'll be able to walk you through some ways that we can take care of some of that insecurity, where you can feel more secure and looking at it in a more system way with some structure and some things that you can think about if you really are wanting to go in that direction. Please remember that as I go through the presentation, this is my way of doing it, and there's so many other ways to do it, but this is what's worked for me. I've had Fox Valley Institute now for 24 years, and it's grown up to 36 psychologists, clinicians, social workers, therapists. So it's worked, but again, it's been my way, and I've designed it so it felt right for me. And I can just say, even the CEO title, people in the business world, as it will say on my initial email, Chief Executive Officer, but I don't even know what that means. So I changed it to, I am really just a Chief Encouraging Officer, and that feels right for me. So just with those little things, words are really important. So remember that as you're building the practice. In the business world, they may have something that works for them, and you may change it to what works for you. So if I have to put down CEO, I know what it means to me, and other people will interpret differently. So just a little tidbit on the side. So I'm going to run through 12 areas regarding the building a practice, and at least you'll know them. And then if you decide to do this, you can research them further, but at least you have a start. And that's what I really want to emphasize today, is that these are things to help you start a practice. So, but again, some of you may not be here because you want to start a practice, or you may be after the end, you'll be like, yeah, I don't think so. And just be open to where you're being led in regards to the practice. Because for me, from the very beginning, I knew I was going to build a group practice. Had not a clue of how I was going to do it, but I knew from my heart I needed to figure it out. And so that's what unfolded for me. And it may be something else unfolds for you, but I hope this information will be helpful for you. So let's start. So the first thing I always bring up is professionalism. And why professionalism? Because it doesn't seem to be very important these days. In fact, I was just asked probably 6 months ago to talk about that professionalism at a university, at a college here in Illinois. And it's because the students didn't know what that means. And professionalism, it means different things to different people. And it is not the job you do, but it's how you do the job. And it has many different facets. But the two aspects that I think are very important are the internal and the external, just to simplify it. And the internal is, who are we when no one's looking? And that has to do with more of our integrity, values, and self-awareness. And then the externals are, who are we when they're looking? How do we look? How do our office looks? How is our communication? What's our training when we are out training? What's our office space and collaboration? What is that all? How does that all look to someone? When someone thinks of you and your practice, what is that? And the one thing I know for me, that I've built the reputation that people know that they can trust Fox Valley Institute. And if we can't provide the service, we will refer them to people that can. We don't just take people for the money or to look good. We do it because we really want to help people. And people sense that and know that about us. And the external part is important as well. It's when people enter your space, how do they feel? Because when they enter your space, if they feel good, they're going to be able to be more open to you. So, and this came up for me when I was working on my master's. There was one professor, and it really struck me hard, that he said, when you finish your master's program, you can go out into the world, rent some space, get some furniture from Goodwill, and make a living. And I was like, oh my gosh, it felt so disrespectful. And I don't think he meant it that way. I think he was just trying to say how easy it would be. But I felt that when people come into my space, I want them to feel cared for and embraced, and in a space where they can share their hearts and soul. And I've heard quite a few times that people say, I wish I would have started here because there's something different here. When you walk into my waiting room, it feels more like a spa is the word that people use. The colors that we use is very emotional, so the emotions can come out, how we have it set up. So we really I want to emphasize that it really people sense a lot of things that we make very intentional. And a lot of times some therapists don't take the time to do that. And I just think it's really important. So that's the first thing I always want to stress when you're thinking about opening up a practice, to remember the professionalism of it. And again, who you are, and that that you take care of what you need to take care of in reference so you can have the integrity and the values and self-awareness. So the growth power team. The concept of the growth power team we came up with is assessing our strengths and weaknesses while identifying what you want. It also identifies the gap in between. So again, words are really important, and I needed some strong words. So it's a growth power team, and to simplify it, it's basically everything I don't know how to do. I don't know how to do it, or I don't want to do it. So this team are the people who love doing what I don't want to do or don't know how to do. And it makes it a lot better to help with the growth of your practice if you're letting people do what they love to do so you can go do what you love to do. So, and be honest when you're assessing also your practice in reference to the growth power team. Are you building a practice because you want job security? Do you want more free time? Do you want a higher income? Do you want to build to sell? Do you want something to leave as a legacy? And it can change over time, and new opportunities come up, or you change, like your life changes, that you want something different. But that's why it's real important to have people who love what they do, who are supporting your growth, and that you have relationships with them so they can help you. And that's basically going to be my focus today, is to look at those areas that really build an organization. And again, it's not that you have to know how to do it. You just need to know the areas that you need to find people to do it. So, and it consists of branding, administration, finance, legal, technology, marketing, and social media is a whole presentation within itself. Human resources, and you're going to be a team member, you're going to be a contractor, and assessing the security protection of your company. So again, these are areas that are just important to know in the beginning. They don't all happen at once, but they just will grow as your practice grows. And your practice as it grows becomes a little more complicated. So I'd rather people know about these things in the beginning, because I didn't. So the first thing, branding. Really, what is it? It's an important part of starting your practice. It's a competitive strategies that provides us with the opportunity to determine how the world sees us. And it really helps to obtain what we desire. It permeates everything we do. So what I mean by that is when you walk in my space, you will find that it has the flavor, the green, the color of it all. My cards are the same, my brochures are the same, but it's more than the logo. It's really the essence of who you present, as well what it is, what branding is. And it really does define you, as you know, by any branding, whether it's Nike, Coca-Cola, any of those big brands, there's a certain image they have when you think of them. And so when you're starting your brand, what are people going to think about you when they see the name of your organization? And it's important because it enhances the value and worth of the company. If you ever go to sell it, it drives people to really say things about you when you're not in the room. And it's not just about the logo, it's how you're projecting yourself internally and externally. And there's some branding that are interesting, but it usually is the personality of the person that comes out in that. The key concepts is the name of your organization, the design of the logo, yes, professionalism, communications, involvement in the community, and giving back. And I just want to stress that one, because that's really important in the sense of when you go out in the community is what builds your practice. So you want to be giving back and getting to know the community that you decide that you want to be located in. And the way to do that, the way that I should say I learned to learn more about Naperville was joining the Naperville Chamber. And any chamber, that's where most businesses are. So you get to know the business community and really find friends as well in there. But the giving back part grows as you grow as an organization and as a business person. Right now, I'm the chairman of the board of Kids Matter, which is an organization, a not-for-profit, which really helps kids make better decisions, as well as on the board of Loaves and Fishes, which is a food pantry here. And by being connected in the community, you also get asked to be on these boards, and you meet just fabulous people that help you in some of the ways that you don't want, that in the areas that you don't want to do in your organization. So you may meet someone better in finances or an attorney. So it's really nice to get to know the community by giving back. And again, it's a way of saying thank you for help building your company. But the most visible aspects of your branding is the social media that you have to be really careful with and have someone who knows what they're doing with that. Your website. In fact, we're right now in a rebranding stage where we just put up a new website. The signage, your office space and brochures, and your business cards. And I always mention business cards is I don't use business cards anymore. I use the dot card. And when I use that, it's a lot easier because I don't have to carry them. And people think I'm really tech savvy because I have a dot card. You basically, everything's on that one card from your website, LinkedIn, all your social media and contact information. You tap someone's phone and all this information goes into the phone, and they just really love that they then don't have to have a card. But it's just something that is interesting, and how I'm known as the dot card woman. And so where do you begin? Probably the name of the practice is a good place. My husband and I took a weekend to when I decided that I wanted to build a practice and to really name the organization. And I won't even share with you with some of the names that I had because they're just too cute. And you'll find some cute names, but that wasn't who I am. And so I really wanted to be strong. So that's where the word institute came from. And the Fox Valley part of it, I was supposed to be in the Fox Valley area. Naperville is not the Fox Valley area, which is interesting, but I found a different office space that I liked, but we had already created the name, liked it. So we just kept it in for the Fox Valley Institute for Growth and Wellness. So people never really ask about that, which I think is interesting. So it's just, again, it felt like right for us. The other thing that you want to think about is your mission and vision statement. What's your mission for the present? What is it that you want to accomplish, and where are you going? What is it that, big audacious goal that you have that you can keep reaching for, but what really emotionally excites you? That's important. And then decide on whether you want to brand and identify yourself as a Christian practice or not. That one I learned when I did counseling at a church. At the counseling practice at the church, it was all Christians that came. And yes, it was a church, but you would hope that there would be some non-Christians that would come. So it was very intentional for me not to have it be identified as a Christian organization. However, people know that there's Christians, that we're Christians, but it's more embodied into the website. Like you'll see we belong to the affiliated with the Christian organization, or that we've done presentation at churches or something there. It's not blatant. And that's what it was very intentional because I wanted to really capture the non-Christians. And it's interesting because many come in and say, there's a different feel in here. And that's what I want. For them to be able to feel something different and then go from there. So But I think it's really important because at first, I should say, when I first opened my first little practice, I did identify as that. And what I did find is most churches that refer to you expect for you to have a sliding scale. So if you're a Christian practice, which I thought was just very interesting. So next, the financial piece. Know your finances, know them. I know it's an area that is not many of our strengths as therapists. Some love it. I do not. So please think about hiring a bookkeeper or an accountant from the very beginning, someone you trust. And again, that's where I brought up the community of the chamber or wherever you would meet business people to help you. As your practice grows, it gets more complicated. So you'll want to start with that because over time you'll spend more time trying to figure it out and not do what you love. And it is totally worth the investment. Learn how to read your financial statements. At least learn how to do that. There's a great book. One of my references is The Road Less Stupid. I love that title by Keith Cunningham. He really condensed MBA program for people like me, I should say, that I understood what financial statements are now, and I felt very educated and knew the terminology. So it's a great resource. Anything from him is a great resource. The legal aspect. Yes, you do need an attorney. I wish I could say we didn't, or you won't, but more likely than not, you will. And I had to get one in a crisis state. And that was when a therapist came to me and a question about, I think it was a child in a divorce case. We didn't know the answer and didn't know where to go. So I ended up starting to make calls to my friends in the field as well as non-for-profits, because non-for-profits always have an attorney. And I found one, and I've been so blessed because she's been my attorney now for 24 years, and she only focuses on mental health. So I can call her or email her, and she just gives you a straightforward answer, like do it, don't do it, yes, no. So it's very helpful. And because our society is so litigious that if you haven't been sued and you're a therapist, be ready to. Just be ready to. It's going to happen. It's happened to the best of us. And it could be that you have done nothing wrong, but people will find ways if they're not ethical. So, and there's too many of them out there. So protect yourself and know one, have one on hand. So the next one, the administrative team, that's huge. It's huge for a practice to have an administrative team when you can afford it. You may have to start off with somebody working a couple of hours to someone working part-time, but it's really important for that part of your organization to keep you organized. I know it was just a couple months ago, we had to change all of our admin, and it was huge to do that, but it was worth it because of what was occurring. And but it really just reminded me how much we rely on our administrative team. And it's something that they love doing. They love details, and most of them love to do it. But I know, again, I've just worked with enough therapists. Many of us are not that detailed and don't really care to do that. So let's give it to someone who does. And our typical administrative tasks are intakes. They take the intakes, the scheduling, our insurance verification and billing collections. We do have a billing organization, but they have to stay in contact to make sure we're on track with it. The variety of questions that come up via emails, the text, phone calls, case notes, requests from lawyers and insurance companies, managing the whole office, the vendors, the supplies, the mail, office appearance, etc. And they just do a great job at taking care of that, which, again, if you're starting off, it may seem very easy, and it is very easy. You're answering your own calls. And I remember when I first started, that I would take my own intakes. Well, what happens is when I grew, people would keep asking for me, and it was hard for me to give it to someone else while someone's asking for you. So it's something to just be aware of, that when someone else is answering, they can then decide where that person should go. And it's really nice to have someone else take care of that. So, and be good to them, because they work hard, and when they leave, it just can turn your world upside down. But it's one area, again, that you may start off with just one, and may need, right now I have 3 full-time, and then a couple part-times that does more of our interviewing for new employees. Technology, this is, no one should be without an IT professional nowadays. With computers, laptops, copiers, scanning, our phone calls turn into emails, the website, check-in system. I don't have someone out front. I have a kiosk, a computer that people check in, and they check the therapist who they're seeing, and then we get text. So we get text, so we don't have to keep checking in the waiting room, and it's just easier, and it keeps it more confidential and HIPAA compliant as well. And we have the security system. And again, the cyber security is so important. We have someone who just does our check-in system, but we also have an IT person that makes sure that we're HIPAA compliant and takes care of all the things that do go wrong. We even had one billing company a couple years ago that got held up for ransom. And so not a good thing to be when they're taking care of all your clients. So technology is so vital these days, and so can be so complicated. You love them when they work, and you hate them when they don't. Marketing. This is, again, something that is a presentation within itself, and it's I'm not the expert in this area by any means, but I can just tell you what we've done that's been very helpful. It's critical area, and I'll just scratch the surface with it, but marketing is about the continuous stream of clients coming through your door. I know during COVID, we wanted to stop that continuous stream, but now it's interesting because people are wanting to do things different. They're wanting to be more in person now, and some therapists don't want to come back, and they want to stay more telehealth. And the clients, it's just the landscape is changing a little bit. But the main goal for you as a practice owner is to make sure that the clients keep continuing to come in. And that requires different activities in regards to marketing, but it does require a budget. And for example, $1 million business requires marketing budget for 60 to 80,000 a year. And that's a true number. You end up spending a lot to get the referrals in. And that sometimes people who are with you, who are clinicians, don't understand when they say, no, I don't want to take a new client, or no, I can't fit them in my schedule. They don't have the understanding how much money you put in to have that client knock on your door. So the marketing consists of collecting a lot of information that's used to reach people. And there's different programs to keep that information. And what's important about that is therapists, if therapists go to different locations, they're not very good at letting people know where they are. So you, as a practice owner, you want to keep all this information in one place. And yes, the database is the infrastructure of your organization. So all the names and numbers and address that you collect, let's say your building burnt down. If you have that information, you can then start up your practice again in a short period of time, because that is your business. That information you're holding with your clients' names, numbers, addresses is what your business consists of. So that's why it's real important to keep it all in one place and organized. So if you ever need to, whether it's an email blast to tell them what you're doing, then it's very easy to do. But again, the most critical part before they had it where you could put it all in one place, we used to like download it every night, because if something would happen to any of the computers or to the building, we wanted to be sure that we always had that as a backup. So just remember that, to keep the database updated as well. Excuse me. Member or contractor. I was just with a friend who's also a practice owner, and we were talking about this, and she said, yeah, I just consulted with somebody, and they said, would you have an employee or a contractor? And she said, I told them it's just so expensive to have employees and just too much work, and that I told them I'd do contractor if I would have known what it is today, what it is. So she has all contractors, and I said, that's interesting. I would never have a contractor. That I prefer to have people, employees, because then it would be a team. And I can't even use the word employee. If somebody that works with me, if I see them and I'm introducing them, I would never say this person works for me, or they're an employee. And they're a team member. We work together. So it's just a team concept. And this is, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is who I am and the way I want to present it, that I want to be able to have a team meeting. I want to be able to have people support each other and consult with each other and supervise with each other. As a contractor, they have no commitment to you. There's no obligation. And yes, there is an expense to have employees, but for me, it was worth it. Because I had a little more, I could manage it the way that I needed it to be managed, to have the practice stay healthy, ethical, and flourishing. So, in our hiring process, we do a formal phone interview, and then that decision goes to me. And I then have an interview with them. And well, I basically do the cultural interview. How do they fit? Will they fit in the culture? Because that's, do I like them? Do I think that they'll fit? Then I send them to the clinical director, and she does more of the clinical interviewing. And sometimes she'll say, Laura, yeah, they're really nice, but they don't know what they're doing. So no. So I really like that, that balance, that I can get the personality of the person and she checks the skills of them. And we do hire full-time and part-time. And there's different. Full-time, it's about 25 hours, and part-time it's 15, but there's some who do less than 15. So sometimes life changes and our full-time go to part-time and our part-time goes to full-time. So we just try to be real flexible with that. Supervisors and consultants. We didn't hire, and I don't mean it disrespectful, we call them 3 letters because we didn't know how else to identify them. We didn't hire 3 letters clinicians for probably 8 years, because it's a lot of work, and none of us who could supervise would take that on anymore. So we would just hire people that were full licensed. So we had supervisors then, but now everyone has a consultant. So if someone comes on board, then we have someone who's been here longer to partner up with them, and they know to contact them if they have questions, so they understand how it works, or if they have questions, they can ask anybody, but at least they have a go-to person is what I want. So we call them consultants. But now, starting this, probably 6 months ago, I did a strategic growth planning meeting with some professionals I hired to come in, and decided that it would behoove us to bring in 3 letters, and really have found that someone, Liz, has decided she wants to head up that program. So she takes care of them, she supervises them, does group interviews, group consultation with them, and really teaches them about marketing, and that in-house is your best marketing place. So don't hide in your office. Come talk to us who've been here a long time, because we're the ones that can refer, as well as the admin team. So she really is teaching them more than just supervising them, and she's really good at it. So they're really enjoying it, but it also, it feels like a separate part of our organization now that's growing. So, and we also have a professor that works with us as a psychologist who's the head of the counseling program at Lewis University, who now sends us some of her students, but only the best, she says. So, and we have weekly team meetings, which again is really important. So especially I've hired some telehealth people who are in Illinois, but I've never met them because they're 5 hours away. So to have the people who are still telehealth be part of the group, I want that. So we get together and we break up in small groups too, so we get to know each other. And then we have some guest presenters as well. There's different incentives. We also offer if someone brings in a full-time person or a part-time person that they know that after a 3-month period, then we give them a bonus for that. So it's just different things. And I mentioned these, I'm bringing these things up of what you can do as a team or as an employee or as an employer. If you have employees, or I call them team members, you can create these things. With the contractor, they can come and go and not have any commitment to you. So you probably hear my preference, but also interns versus sliding scale. Interns, we've had interns over the years, and being on the board of Loaves and Fishes, what I partnered with them is that they would send their clients over to us. We'd see them for free, the interns would. So the interns would get the hours that they needed and have plenty of them. And then we could also serve the community and give to the people who couldn't afford counseling. So it was really helpful in that way. The sliding scale, as you know, many of us are very good-hearted and want to help everybody, and we just can't. So on the sliding scale piece, because we had the intern, we could also put people that couldn't afford us in with the interns. But also if they were someone who's with us, and of course situations happen with life and things changes, we do have the therapist be able to do a sliding scale, and we just ask that they keep it to 3 so it doesn't go crazy. Because sometimes they wonder why they aren't getting paid well, and then you check how many people they were seeing on a sliding scale. So we just help them set the boundaries for that, which has worked well so far. And they've asked for approval, and it always gets approved. Human resources. This is one you wouldn't think you need because everybody plays nice and works nice, but they don't. But it's also great to know that these companies that are out there, like Gusto and Paychex and ADP, that do all the payroll, and then you can pay additional to have human resources. And we use Paychex and have for many years, and we do pay for the extra human resources because it's a department that can help you with questions that you have. And it's really like in letting someone go and how to do that and what paperwork do you need. And it really can prevent a lawsuit. It provides the mandatory trainings for free every year for us. So like the sexual harassment that we need that every year now. It assists with the performance appraisals, also with retirement services, and an employee handbook. And I don't think people really understand that employee handbook is really a part of protecting your organization, because it's everything in writing, that if there's ever a question, you can say that the people have signed the handbook. And it's just another way to protect your organization and to make it clear for everybody how you are running your organization and if they have any questions. Access security. This is, again, one that people don't talk about, and I just wanted to bring it up. Again, it's less than 1% of business owners in the United States adequately protect their business. And isn't that interesting? And not even amazing. It's sad, because you just don't think about it until you get a lawsuit and someone takes your company away from you. But it minimizes the lawsuits to have that protection. So we're in different states, so I would speak to an attorney about it and your CPA. And questions like, should I be an LLC? Should I be an S Corp? Should I be a C Corp? Now there's a PLLC. And things keep changing over time. So great people to talk to and to check in are those professionals. You'll need malpractice insurance. So we cover that for everyone in our practice. And workman's comp. for employees, and it's been used for, especially for the admin, when somebody slipped their finger, that they used the workman's comp, which was great that we had it. There's commercial, the umbrella coverage was just another layer. And then estate planning for the future. What do you want to do with your company after you grow it? You know, what is it that how do you want to protect it in reference to the future? So again, another area that is not talked about much, but is really important, that again, I'm just giving you areas that for you to investigate more about, but to be aware of. So some of my final thoughts: dream big, think big, pray big. And I don't mean big in the means of how many people you have, how much money you make, but dream outside and think outside and pray outside of what you're comfortable with. What is it that you really want, and give yourself permission to go beyond your boundaries that you're used to and your comfort zone. And if you're all in school right now, I know that just going to school can be going beyond your comfort zone. But this is when you get out into building a practice, really think about, what is it that you want to create? What is it that God has you wanting to create? But to do that, you're going to have to take care of yourself, because none of what we just talked about can happen, will happen in a healthy way if you're not healthy. So you really need to take care of yourself emotionally, psychologically, physically, spiritually. You need to do what we're telling our clients to do. We need to really have the time off to manage our what we need to do at home, to really have that time to connect with the God that we love, and really ask for direction about what he wants for us. Because there is going to be times it's going to feel really hard and lonely and fearful and uncertain. And there's going to be long hours, and you're not going to be away from your family, and you're going to feel like, what am I doing this for? And you'll have to go back and figure that out. And what is it? And why are you doing it? I remember when I first started, I was emptying up garbages while I'm sitting doing marriage counseling at evening, emptying both at changing, emptying the garbage at night after I've just seen couples. It's things you have to do it all while you're starting off, and it can get a little overwhelming. So if those things happen, then you need to go back to remembering your purpose. Like, why are you doing this? Remember your why. For me, I just wanted to help couples. That was really on my heart. And that had to do with my parents being divorced, and that it just really helped me to try to understand how could life have been different if they could have stayed together. How would the children have been different? How would we have been different? So again, it was on my heart. So that was my purpose. I really wanted to see if I could help couples see the opportunity, especially if they had children. And so it was a big why for me. And I can at times still get emotional about it, because that's how big of a why it is. And when you have your purpose, it needs to be emotional for you, or it won't last. It will just be a drain for you. So really get one that really juices you up. Don't hesitate to ask for help, because we all need it. I don't know how many times I'd go home crying to my husband and really needing a shoulder, because it just gets hard sometimes to be pulled in many directions when you're starting off. And during that time, the difficult times, just ask God for the reassurance and calm and direction of what he wants for you and what he wants for your practice. And some may decide that they don't want to do that. And I have literally 4 therapists, 4 psychologists that had practices, stopped doing it, and said they just didn't want to do that anymore. It was too much work. And so they're here. And I love that they're here. The quality of work and care, and they just do their job and love their clients and are very peaceful. But it was, they decided, they tried it, and they didn't want to do it anymore because they wanted to spend more time with their family. The other thing I found very helpful was joining a mastermind group. I have a mastermind group I've been in for 3 years now, and I have people, Pennsylvania, Boston, and the UK. And every week, Friday at 11 o'clock, we are on Zoom and really talking about what we need to do to stay on track, to stay positive, to stay supportive of each other, the ideas that we bring. So it's very, very helpful to have people that you trust. And what I like is they are all over. Like they do different things than therapy. So they're business oriented. So I could get more ideas and get more creative that way. But also, I really didn't want anybody in my town. I wanted to be able to be free, to be able to cry and scream and yell and swear or whatever I needed to do during my times of frustration, and know that it was safe to be there and knowing that it's not going anywhere. The thing that was a big game changer for me was when I hired a business consultant. And that was huge because I wanted someone. I got to the point where I grew the practice, maybe 18 clinicians, and I didn't know what else to do. I truly was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. And who do I ask? And so I met this business consultant. I watched him from afar. My husband's a veteran, and it was at the Bunker, which is a business part of veterans. So I saw him when I went with my husband to one of their meetings, and I just liked how I saw him work. So it was watched him that he was direct, but he was kind. And I could see that he really cared. So I met with him and ended up hiring him and have been seeing him for about 3 years now. And what was important for me is I wanted someone who had a business, sold the business, knew about when you had employees, about the issues that come up there, and knew what to do, but also loved God. It was really important to me because he can be direct with me, but he's gentle with me. And I had one consultant that basically said, do you want my help or do you want a tissue? And so I didn't stay with him very long, but someone who got to know me and knew my abilities and also helped support me in that. So those are just some things that I have found through my years of building Fox Valley Institute that have been very helpful. And again, the business consultant was really a game changer for me. So the one thing to remember, to have your vision turn into reality, if you talk about something, it's a dream. If you envision it, it can be exciting. If you plan it, it's possible, but if you schedule it, it does become real. So the one thing that I encourage you to do, that if you're thinking about it, is look at your outcome first. What is the result? What is it that you want? Look at, do you want a group practice with 10 people or 50 people or 2 people? What is it that you want, and what do you want that to look like? And where do you want it to be? And how do you want to market it? Just start dreaming and really creating, and what's the end result you want? And then find the purpose of it. Is it that you want to help anyone, or a certain area that you really want to just do what you can to help someone who needs it? Is it that you have a growth in a certain part of your community that you want to help in? Really, but with your purpose, find the emotion attached to it. Because if you don't have that, the outcome just hangs there and it feels very heavy. If you have an outcome and take action, and there isn't like that heartfelt reason for it. So again, that's just another thing that I have found very helpful, that I need to know my outcome and to remember my purpose, which is my why. And then I can take action with joy and enjoy it and not feel so drained about it. So with that, I hope I'm leaving you with some things to think about.
You certainly are, Dr. Bokar. Thank you. This is a delight to hear your thoughts. We have a few minutes for questions, and if you want a question, please text it in the chat box, and then Rima will be receiving them. And we just have a few more minutes, and some of you need to go. Our gratitude for your presence. If you need to step out before because of a noon appointment, we'll be ending by noon. But let's just take a few questions. So Rima, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So one of our questions that we got was, where do the majority of your marketing dollars go? For example, is this usually to Google? Is it online? Or where else are these funds directed usually for you?
Yes, one of my growth power team members is my SEO gentleman, Steve. And so there's a lot of money that goes to Google. And it's interesting how I love that he knows Google and can figure it out because they keep changing it on us. But I do spend a lot of money with Steve and to get up to, because you could, if you're on the 10th page, you're not going to, it's not helpful. So you basically have to pay for whatever it is that he does behind the scenes to get up top, at least on the first page.
Awesome, thank you. So we had another question about how were you able to financially afford the startup?
It was really probably, if I think back, it was saving some pennies, saving over time, because I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So it was having a very small startup fund. Again, my first office I built out was just 3 offices and a waiting room. And now, so it was affordable. I made it affordable, and then also made sure I had some clients to start off with. So that helped a lot. But I also was married. And so my husband was also helpful, very helpful in starting Fox Valley, as well as helping support me through that as well. So he probably paid the mortgage and I paid the rent at my office.
Okay, thank you. And then I noticed too, along the same vein of about the ethical and legal avenues for starting a counseling practice as a nonprofit. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I do not. It's not my area of expertise, so I don't.
Okay.
But there are people who do, who that's all they do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then someone else wanted to know about, they had some thoughts about there's a ethical dilemma. Some people, a little bit of controversy over hiring therapists as contractors. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, you can't hire as contractors if you're a 3-letter. If you're a full licensed person, you can be hired as a contract person, at least in Illinois. Let me speak there. I don't know about Virginia. But here, if you're a fully licensed person, you can absolutely be independent. So it's just the non-licensed and or the 3-letter therapists that cannot be, and too many of them do, and it's illegal, but nobody's doing anything about it. So it's sad.
And then I think we had one more, and you may have already touched on this earlier. What was your best investment in marketing early on? I know you spoke about the SEO person that you have.
I think the best investment early on, we're talking 25 years ago, was the relationships. That I could tell you that was the best investment, is getting out into the community and getting to know people, because that's really was kind of the start. Because I don't go in as a marketer, I go in as a relationship builder. So I want to know about their organization. I want to know is there anybody I know that could help them? So really, and that was truly from the heart. I wanted to get to know the community, and not just here I am and refer to me. I almost didn't even ask for that. I was like, tell me about you and tell me about your business, and let me build a relationship with you so you know me, to be able to trust me to refer to me. So that's, I would say, was early on, that was my biggest investment.
Okay, yeah. So it looks like there's another question about what areas or what avenues are you aware of for non-licensed therapists? Do you have any thoughts about that? Maybe like a life coach or a consultant?
You mean, help me understand the question. If
Yeah.
they're not licensed, but they have a degree, what could they do with it?
I suppose so. Maybe someone working through a church, like lay counseling, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it depends on their interest. So I, even if my thoughts are, if you aren't licensed, but you want to go in a certain area, go get certified, get something where you have the expertise in it. So don't just because you have this degree and you've learned a lot, go get some focus of it, of what you want to accomplish.
And then do you have any advice for someone coming out of COVID-19 and starting their practice?
Yeah, to know that it's changed a lot. When during COVID, we would have a wait list of 100, literally 100 people, and they would, go through and get help, and another 100 would come. And now that it's ended, things are shifting, that people really don't want telehealth as much anymore, and they do want in person. So if you're going to do it, I would start off knowing that it's going to, you may have some Zoom to start off with, but to really think about office space, because you're going to need it. People are tired of Zoom. They don't want to Zoom anymore. But therapists, what's interesting is therapists want to continue Zooming. Most therapists want to continue Zooming, and some won't come back in, and some will start coming back in. So I would just be mindful of that it won't be, if you were thinking about doing it from your home, I would look at office space.
Let's stop there. And I want to thank each person for participating and the questions delivered, and especially to Dr. Bokar. And Laura, could you put in the chat your email address where they could contact you if anyone had a question to follow up?
Oh,
that would
absolutely.
be great. And then we are grateful. You can reach us at charis.regent.edu. And thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.